Check 1 2 3 1 2 3. We're live, baby. No intro today because I want to get right to it. Holy cow! Remember we were all saying, like, when Trump puts together the team, the all-star team, I hope they can get some stuff done right away. Man, I hope they can jump right in and, put together an all-star cast. I didn't expect this all-star cast to come in. And you may not even like all the picks, but I think what we're ready for is an amazing, an incredible great awakening as far as who they're putting together and what they're already saying they're going to get done. A lot to talk about with that. I got to warn you, too, it's a lot of politics. It's almost all politics today, but it's also, at the other side of that coin, it's all great news. We talk about that. Mainstream media loses another one. Going to the podcast live stream world, it's the surest sign ever that mainstream media is done. We've talked about this now for probably like 2 months. It's over. It's done. It's done. Mainstream news is not the number one news site in the world. Is probably what you're watching me on right now, which is X. This is where it's all going. And a huge name in mainstream news is jettisoning and leaving for the new world of media. That's awesome too. We'll talk about that as well. And when a snub is completely appropriate, you go for it. Melania is not going to the White House to meet Jill Biden, and it's completely and totally understandable, despite the criticism, of course. With all that said, thanks for finding Wicked Radio. I appreciate you so much. Early on in the week, already Tuesday, but already a lot of stuff happening. So I saw a tweet last night, a post from Elon himself, who actually owns X, and he said, a very productive day with the White House transition team. And I said, uh-oh, he's gotten to work. And sure enough. Now, here's the lineup card, okay? Here's where we are right now. First of all, the trifecta is underway because it only took a week. It took a week. But the Republicans have gained control in the House, in the Senate, and the White House now, the House of Representatives. Everybody was waiting on Arizona forever for them to count all their votes, but they finally got it done, so that's happening here. Now, the lineup card, to update this, is a lot. Listen to some of these names, and you may not like all of them. Yesterday, we talked about Tom Homan, the former ICE director. Now he's in charge, the border czar, as they call it. Oh, and this was classic. Now the media is criticizing the term border czar. They invented it. That's what they called Kamala. But they don't like that now because it sounds like it has too much power. Know about Tom Homan. Elise Stefanik was announced yesterday. Great representative from upstate New York. She is the UN ambassador. That's what Nikki Haley did before, but didn't do much. Stephen Miller, Trump advisor, the new deputy chief for policy. Susie Wiles, that was already announced last week. She's the chief of staff. Trump making history. This guy that's supposedly the misogynist, making history by appointing the first ever female chief of staff in American history. Yeah, that's there. Congressman Mike Waltz, he's a Florida guy. Familiar with him. He's the national security advisor, another strong guy. This all done yesterday, by the way. Not completely confirmed yet, but all of these have been announced. Congressman Lee Zelen, he's the EPA administrator, another New York guy, a lot of New Yorkers. Kristi Noem last night was nominated to be the chief of the Department of Homeland Security. Marco Rubio looks as though he's going to be Secretary of State. Probably the most controversial of all these things so far. But here's the most important one. When we talked about the team, we all kind of said, I hope they get a lot done. Well, check. I hope they get names out there right away. Check. And I hope they get people who aren't going to mess around. It's not like the first time around where Trump was like, first time he was in the Oval Office, he's like, this kind of a dump. I'm going to need to fix this place up. And he didn't know who exactly to hire. I think we all know that story, right? He had some rats in the administration, people that didn't do him any justice whatsoever. He's criticized them a lot. Like the social media generals, the ones on TV, the ones he doesn't like too much, the John Kellys of the world who created another hoax against him. He didn't like them. But the real people behind the scenes that were pushing him to have the right people on the team. A guy like, a name you may not know yet. You may, or you may not, but you're going to a lot in the future. Kash Patel, security advisor to President Trump before. It looks as though this guy, Patel, is going to be head of the CIA. And this is an incredible, incredible thing. This is why I call them the new founding fathers. They're going to clean up this bureaucratic state of swamp monsters that we've seen, the likes of which we've never seen a cleaning house like this. This is why all these Washington insiders and these swamp monsters and these unelected officials are all in such a panic. And they're trying to tell you and me and everybody else through the media This is such a bad thing. Oh, this is the chaos. This is the chaos we warned you about. No, this is the homecoming of common sense and a real golden opportunity. That's why this is the start of the golden age, to make government work for the people again. Little example of this Kash Patel guy, who's amazing. He's done all kinds of interviews. He's big on the podcast circuit. He knows everybody that's important. This is how he's going to clean up the CIA and all their evil doings under the surface, and maybe most importantly, how they work with the mainstream media to get these lies and hoaxes out there and cover up things that they're actually doing.
The deep state exists, but the most important connection I want to make is there is no deep state without the fake news mafia. They cannot operate without them. And they've partnered up to leak classified information over and over again when it benefits a political narrative. And that is the ultimate weaponization of our government against its citizenry.
I cannot be happier about this. And again, it's going to seem like everything's falling apart at first, because that's what the media, as in their last dying, limping days, are going to try to tell everybody. But it's not the case. They are going to clean house, and it's a great, great thing. Everybody all combined. And other people, a couple of names on that list that I just mentioned there, you may not be happy with. But they're going to get a lot of work done, because this transition team is incredible. They're still kind of stuck, I guess, apparently in a big job with the Senate leader. Trump wants Rick Scott to get it done, and some other people want some rhinos in there, but he'll get that done as well. So it's a real chance. With that trifecta finally done, with the White House, House of Representatives now in the Senate, it's a golden opportunity. You should feel great about this, to get this country back in the hands of the people. And most importantly, though, I didn't expect this to be such a... Trump's talked about it on the campaign trail quite a bit, making education great again. I figured, all right, that'll be, I don't know, like 10th on the list. Top 10 issue. It's really important. He'll put the power back in the hands of parents once again. Well, another thing I didn't expect, getting to work right away. First announcement is getting rid of, not reforming, getting rid of the Department of Education. Here's one of the video announcements from Mar-a-Lago yesterday.
And one other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children, because they'll do a much better job of it. You can't do worse.
No, you can't.
We spend more money per pupil by 3 times than any other nation.
It's one of those issues that's amazing, because everybody has complained about how bad the state of education is state by state, right? It's just terrible. Wasted money, low-performing students. No one's happy with it. But all of a sudden he talks about getting rid of this bloated agency. And it's just terrible. What do you mean? Listen to me. Those are people who are afraid of losing their jobs. That's why these, unelected bureaucrats, again, at a federal level, that don't understand the individual needs of individual communities and what students need in those communities. You put that power back in the hands of the state the way it used to be, the states. And then you've got education that actually works. And let's talk about this Department of Education for a quick sec. Think, well, it's been around as long as we've had schoolhouses. Oh, no, my friends. Don't get trapped into that fallacy. The Department of Education was only created in 1979. That's right. You know who created it? Jimmy Carter. Nice man, awful president. What happened immediately? We were number 1 in the nation in education. Almost immediately, we went down to 24th in the world. That's unacceptable. The future is in the hands of kids. Okay, not only school kids, but what are you going to do about these colleges and universities, which has been the nest, which has been the center of all of this anti-American propaganda that happens, right? And it's happened that way for decades, but we only just recently really started to fix it. Well, apparently the man from Mar-a-Lago has a plan for that too. Another video announcement. And by the way, all of these aren't empty words. He's going to get to work on these right away.
The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all.
Now, what that means is, basically, follow the money, and if bad things are coming out of colleges, and they're doing terrible things to students, which they are, I'll get to in a minute, you take the money away is what happens. So a new set of accreditors is what he's talking about, where they have a new set of standards, which says if you're pushing this stuff, if you're pushing what is bad for the country, and by the way, you're doing a great disservice to many, maybe not the Ivy Leagues, but many college students who are not prepared for the world and the business world. You're not going to be accredited. You're not going to get the A rating or the number one rating, whatever it is. You're not going to get that anymore. That's what sends a chill to the bone to these universities and these university presidents. Look back at last spring, when we first saw the pro-Hamas, and that's what it was, pro-Hamas protests at college campuses, mostly Ivy League, where they actually went so far as to block Jewish kids from going to class. There was violence on these campuses. The things that were said, the speakers they brought in that weren't any part of that student body whatsoever. That kind of stuff happening here. And then you have reaction to, how would this go? You have reaction to, and this happened at many universities last week, from Wednesday on, the reaction to the Trump election. We will not be holding class today. No, that kind of crap stops. And what's really going to sell this deal in reforming not only the Department of Education, getting rid of that, but especially the colleges, is the students working hand in hand with this. Students, by the majority in this country at the college level, have wanted something like this for years. I wanted it back in the early 90s when I was going to college. I'm sure you did too. Well, now you've got a weapon by your side, but it's not going to completely work, and you're going to face a big fight unless you, college kids, stand up and work with this, and you demand that these new accreditors are in place. That's what's going to work. That's how this is all going to happen. You demand you get your money's worth. First of all, you demand that the acceptance process and the application process is on the level for the first time in, forever. There's no more bias. There's no more racism. All the DEI crap has to go away. You fix the colleges, and you give every student a real opportunity. Or you take their money away. That's the bottom line. That's what's going to work. The thing that surprised me, though, was, like I said, I thought education and academia was going to be a talking point. No, the new Avengers, the new Founding Fathers, they totally realized this is where a lot of the bad stuff happens. This is great. This is great news, unless you're not playing by the rules. This is great news for everybody. All right, here's another piece of great news. This is where, we were talking about what the effects of the election was. Proof positive that the people have gained control of information again. This might be the biggest result of all. This might be the biggest thing ever. You saw that with Trump running a campaign where he went on podcasts, all the rallies, of course, did his social media stuff, went back on X for a little bit. His Truth Social was going through the roof. That's because people made it so. You, me, and everybody else. It's new media. All of this is changing. All of it. The mainstream media, I said it once before, I'll say it a million times in the future. It's dead. Where you get your news is completely different. And it seems shocking at first. That's what they try to tell you. Oh, the disinformation. It's not. The answer to what you want to call disinformation or hate speech or whatever it is more speech, not censorship. This fight to censor what Americans can see, think, and feel, and consume news and information on their own level. That fight, censorship has probably taken its biggest hit ever in this country because it's always existed. The free information is here. Mainstream media, because of their lies and deception, and like Kash Patel said, working with the deep state to determine what you're going to see, think, and feel, that's gone. Another example, mainstream media just lost another one. Okay, maybe not the biggest name anymore, but the guy is been around for a long, long time. Chris Wallace, formerly of the mainstream networks, but 3 years ago, he went to CNN. Well, that didn't work out too well. He's leaving CNN because he says what everybody realizes now, live streams and podcasts and long-form podcasts, that's where everything is right now. How's he going to do in that world? I don't know. But the takeaway is, and this is another great thing that should make you feel great, we got control of information again. It's freed up, and it's an incredible time. And a lot of stuff that's going to come out that's going to be shocking, like what Kash Patel is going to reveal about the CIA. Very shocking. And all the files that are going to be unveiled, oh my God. Like the amount of truth that's coming out over the next few years is going to be, it's going to take a little bit. You're going to have to take a deep breath. You're like, okay, well, I wanted the truth. Wasn't prepared for that. But it's all a great thing. The truth is great. There's a little example of Chris Wallace. I had forgotten about this interview. Do you remember late in Trump's first term? And they were giving him a hard time about, the COVID response and what's happening here, and America's death rates are so terrible. This was the interview. I think it was in the Rose Garden, maybe. I'm not exactly too sure, but it was at the White House. Chris Wallace went there and he interviewed Trump, and Trump's staff came out and they gave him a bunch of charts and papers live on the air for the interview. And Trump's like, I hope you show this because you're totally wrong, Chris. It's a little example of Chris Wallace, why he's not in mainstream media anymore.
I hope you show this scenario because it shows what fake news is all about. Okay,
I don't think I'm fake news, but we'll put
Well, there you were.
we'll put our spats on.
You said we had the worst mortality rate in the world.
Yeah, well, that's actually great. That was probably the best interview Chris Wallace has ever done, because it was kind of like shocking. If he does that kind of stuff in the new media, in the online digital world, hey, good for him. But mainstream media loses another one, and that's great news for all of us. Here's my favorite. I know this is all politics. I get it, but it's also combined. Like I said, the other side of this coin is all great news. Here's my favorite headline of the day yesterday, and let me go to some of the print media headlines of this, because the way they did it is great. Let's go to the New York Post because they have the best headline writers. Melania Trump declines to meet with Jill Biden at White House, citing Mar-a-Lago raid. Well, that says it all, doesn't it? And it's already started now. The lunatics over at MSNBC are trying to say, well, this isn't presidential. The Bidens didn't do it to them in the transition of power. This didn't happen. Yeah. You know what else didn't happen? Let me see. Let me try to think what else was different. Oh, yeah. The Bidens' home wasn't raided by the FBI. That's another thing that didn't happen. And I am completely A-OK fine with this snub, because if somebody had orchestrated a raid on your home, Mar-a-Lago, where you live, wherever it is, would you go and meet with the outgoing administration and make all nicey and all that other stuff? No, you would not. Nobody with any sense of pride would allow that. And this is a level where you're talking about Melania being not the first lady, not a supermodel, not a well-known person, not somebody in the media. At this level, you're talking about Melania as a mom. This is why she's snubbing Jill Biden and the Bidens and the outgoing administration. She won't have anything to do with them. You raided her home. This gets lost in translation. She doesn't care. I don't care who it is. Any mom in the world. You invade that sanctity. You've reached a level. You want to piss off mama bears? That's what you do. So in any normal circumstance, I'd say, oh, come on, don't do the snub thing, make nice, have a nice transition of power. No, absolutely not. She is completely, totally in the right on this. This reminded me of something else. So you pissed off Mama Bear with that. You know who else was at home as a high school student at the time? Barron. Barron's in college now. I would look for Barron in the future to be that's a kid that will never forget. He's seen the inside dirty politics, what they tried to do to his family, tried to throw his dad in jail. Remember all that stuff and all the fake news? And they raided his home. Probably saw his mom cry over this. You want to piss off a dude that loves his mom? Scare his mom. He will come after you with everything he has. So if all these changes of the new founding fathers don't work, you're going to have to deal with Barron Trump in about 20 years. Just keep that in mind. All right, I know. A lot of politics, but wow, what a time. And I promise you, it's all going to be good. Shocking stuff is coming out that's been going on, under the surface for all of these years, probably decades, and we're going to find out about it. But it's all going to be good. It's all good stuff. Be here for it. All right, thanks for finding me. Thanks for finding Wicked Radio. The audio version, too, the audio podcast, which usually gets posted usually by like 9 a.m. when I get done with this stuff and I chop it all up. And it goes to the podcast streaming services, wherever you get them. That would be Apple and iHeart and Spotify and all that crap. So download that, too. And that's been going great. I appreciate it. And then the replay of this on X and on YouTube as well. All right, the takeaway, the Founding Fathers are here. It's a great thing. You should be happy about it. The other takeaway, as always, don't take any crap from anybody. I'll see you tomorrow.